you for coming and joining us today to hear about how Desktop as a Service helps enable remote work. Hi, I'm Melissa Stein, Director of End User Computing, and this is near and dear to my heart because I joined AWS in the Q4 of 2020, so during the pandemic, and I've just recently started meeting my colleagues in person. So the challenges that IT organizations face in really supporting hybrid and originally remote work is near and dear to my heart. Let me introduce Vishal.
Hi, I'm Vishal Lakhotia. I'm a solutions architect supporting our customers in education vertical across Southeast United States, and a lot of them have shown interest with remote working. So here I am to share some of that feedback with you folks.
Thanks, Vishal. And now just kind of take a minute and go through our agenda. So we're going to talk about why hybrid work, why does this matter, what are the challenges that are faced? And then we're going to talk about Amazon's end user computing solutions and the benefits they have for IT organizations and the corporations as a whole. And then we'll wrap it up with some key takeaways and any Q&A that you might have. Things changed. Think back, March 2020, just over 2 years ago. Before that, we were getting in our car, going to the office every day, talking with our colleagues, brainstorming sessions. That was life. And then within a matter of weeks, everything shifted. People were now all of a sudden at home, thinking about how am I actually even going to collaborate with anybody anymore? And once that shock wore off, they started liking it. They didn't have to put on a jacket and some real shoes and go to work every day. In fact, and they found themselves to be more productive. And after they got used to the shift, it became a key way to not only retain talent, but to actually attract talent to an organization. So not only has there been this shift in what employees want out of their working environment, there was actually changes in the types of employment people were seeking. So we've seen a huge shift in the amount of short-term contract work or freelancers. In fact, there is a recent study from Upwork that supports the freelance. It's a freelance platform. And they said 36% of all US employees actually did freelancing during the pandemic. 1 in 3 did some kind of freelance work. That is a major, major shift. And it's not going away. In fact, some people have embraced it so much that they're like, hey, if I can work from anywhere and do my job, why not rent an Airbnb every month in a different location? I can have my travel sense kind of like, feel good about seeing the world and actually still get my job done. Well, companies may have been worried about it, but it actually was somewhat of a blessing. Because now instead of having to think about, how am I going to find this small talent pool that's really close to my corporate headquarters or several large offices, now the pool is the entire world. I could find talent wherever it exists. And if you think about, too, you get a more diverse perspective. There was a Harvard Business Review study last year that the top companies with the 25% most diverse workforce were 36% more profitable. So having a diverse talent group has a positive impact on the bottom line. And speaking of bottom line, there were some cost savings to be had. No longer you have to think about these huge investments in real estate, and obviously, hopefully you're all growing and there's more and more campuses to be had. All of a sudden there was a savings there. Our customer, the University of Virginia, right before the pandemic was running out of space for their student labs. They're like, how am I gonna find another student lab room? This is just cost prohibitive. Well, starting to think about running those labs and that software from the cloud made them reevaluate that whole equation about spinning up that physical real estate. And the other major shift for cost savings is bring your own device. Wow, really? I can use maybe not just my own phone, but my own laptop? Something that I'm actually more comfortable in? Like I got myself the best technology. I don't have to worry about what you're giving me. So now I have freedom to use the systems that I use, but with doing that, you have to think about how to keep things secure. So organizations now start really, really embracing this hybrid work. In fact, with a recent survey from PwC, when they talked to a bunch of IT executives, only 17% were gonna be like, I'm going back to the way it was before the pandemic. I'm really wanting everybody in the office. But 56% said, I am gonna keep doing what I'm doing. It's working. My users are productive. They're happy. And now 13% of them had just said, you know what? Forget real estate altogether, we're going fully remote. But to do this took technology. Now, it's not surprising that people had to invest in collaboration tools. I don't know about you, but I probably do a good 10 calls a day, video conferencing. At some point, I'm like, do you really want to see me anymore? But we've done a lot of video conferencing. There's digital whiteboards, really investing in how we can collaborate when we're not there in the same room. But second only to that is how to make sure there is secure connectivity. When people aren't in that office, but they're accessing corporate resources, is absolutely critical to make that secure. So let's talk about security. So now people are all over the world. They're not even the corporate office, they're everywhere. They may be working from home, they may be working from a coffee shop, they could be anywhere. And now this notion of this network perimeter, right, where you go to the office, you log in, once you're in that corporate network, you get access to everything. It just doesn't make sense anymore. What is that network perimeter? So how are you gonna make this very distributed, remote and hybrid workforce accessing corporate resources on a daily basis secure so that you're not leaking data? And a lot of times when you think about data leaks or breaches, you think about these big external actors, these huge events, like the one that shut down the global pipeline, or you think about SolarWinds. But in reality, there's a lot of insider threats as well. In fact, the Ponemon Institute that does an annual survey said between 2020 and 2022, insider threats were up 34%. One of the ones that's been in the public, especially last year, was with Robinhood, the trading platform, where one of their customer support agents was compromised. It led to 7 million user accounts being exposed. So you really have to think about the key aspects of keeping that data secure. And you're doing this with an IT talent shortage, right? So you have to invest in technology, but the IT people aren't there, and that's really what's keeping CIOs up at night. And then you add on top of that, there is a cybersecurity professional shortage. According to CyberSeek, there was 464,000 open cybersecurity jobs in the US alone at the end of Q3 2021. For every 100 open positions, there's only 68 qualified professionals. So now if you're kind of thinking about a career change, cybersecurity might be the right one. There's a lot of openings. Now, bringing it a little bit closer to home, Amazon. The Amazon IT team supports hundreds of thousands of workers. And Amazon was known for having a very office-centric culture. Well, in just a matter of weeks, everyone was home. And this was during a time where we were providing critical services. So we had to scale up. We were still adding people, but we could not get them their laptops. Things were stuck at the border, right? Customs, stuck. Supply chain issues, stuck. So how are we gonna allow people to be productive? So we started looking at how they could use their own device, but think about that running their desktop from a cloud-based environment. And one of our key leadership principles is frugality. So we were not gonna spend tremendous amounts to get that laptop to somebody no matter what. Again, looking at the cloud helped us realize some cost benefits. And as I mentioned, we had to scale. We had to scale really quickly, and there was no IT support, right? You couldn't just go, oh, go to the desk, pick up your new laptop, sorry you broke it, or I need to, reset my password. So we had to think about how we could do things in a self-service way, and we really scaled up our remote and our chat IT support to handle these workers that are in 53 countries around the world. So part of what Amazon IT did was turn to Amazon or AWS's own end-user computing services. And I'm going to spend the rest of the presentation going through these services and how they can create a positive impact in your environment. We have 3 key solutions today in the cloud desktop or desktop as a service space. First, we have Amazon WorkSpaces. So for your workers who need a persistent desktop, this is as close as you can get to a physical desktop. Everything's there. It's always just as they left it. Windows open, Windows always there. We have Amazon AppStream. Think about a shared environment. New session every day, non-persistent desktop, or there's a few key applications that need to be streamed. That's AppStream. And for the workers who spend part or even all their day in web-based apps, we have recently launched WorkSpaces Web. Now, across all these products, our goal is to make the workforce productive. So they can do their job from anywhere and on any device, but at the same time, it has to be simple and easy for IT. So we need to make it easy for them to scale up, scale down as their workforce changes without having to deploy and operate a lot of infrastructure. And these solutions span various worker types. So if you're like me, I'm a knowledge worker, you're in product, you're in development, you're in marketing, you're in finance. Again, I don't want to work on a document and try to figure out where I left it off, right, when I go back in. That's why we have persistent desktops. That's why we have workspaces. Now, for people who spend their whole day, let's say you're a geoseismic analyst and you're in these very high-end applications, but you spend all day, we have workspaces. But let's say you only need these very specialized high-performance computing or design apps part of your day. For that, we have AppStream. AppStream also works well for students or any kind of shared environment where you need to access a particular app or two for just a period of time, or even a frontline workforce that may go in and share their actual computing devices. And when we think about these, let's say task workers, the people who go in and actually do a lot of the work that keeps our businesses alive, they're processing our paychecks. They're running our call center. We have those customers running on AppStream, and now for those that are using web-based applications, we have WorkSpaces Web. And if you think also about WorkSpaces Web and having a secure browsing environment, let's say there's a salesperson and they're going off to go see their client and they need to access some very sensitive data. It's on the intranet. You don't want them going in from any public internet and getting this data and downloading this application or this presentation they're about to give. WorkSpaces Web keeps that all in a secure computing environment or secure browsing environment. So there's a few key benefits we're going to go through about bringing your desktop to a cloud. How it makes your environment more agile, how we can actually enhance the security, and how we can better optimize the costs. So starting off talking about how end-user computing services make our entire IT environment and many of our customers' IT environments more agile, right? In this world that is just constantly changing. Who knows what's going to get thrown at us next? So the world of virtual desktops, VDI, has been around about 15 years. Remote desktop protocols have been around even longer. So people have seen the benefit. You can go log in from a central location, manage your updates, push them out to everybody. You don't have to go touch every single device, so there's definitely cost savings there. But with these traditional VDI environments, they expected you to run all of your infrastructure on-premise, which means it could take almost 5 days on average, according to this IDC study, to get a user a virtual desktop. Right? You're waiting through queues, you're making sure the infrastructure's there. What happens if you ran out of servers? You're going to have to go figure out how to get some really quickly. This slide right here really tends to show the complexity. So if I am completely managing my virtual desktop infrastructure environment myself, I have to go get the colo space. I have to rack and stack servers. I have to set up hypervisors. I have to set up my storage. I have to set up my networking, blah, blah. And now finally, oh wait, I finally got to the image where the OS and the applications are. It's exhausting, and there's no wonder why this is a lot of work. So some customers of ours have taken a hybrid approach, and we do work with partners like Citrix and VMware who put some of the virtual desktop in their systems and run the rest of the environment in the cloud on EC2, on S3. This is this middle row. And sometimes they're doing this for very specific applications using our DCV protocol, like for the gaming industry. Now, for companies who want to really say, you know what, I've got some really strategic things I have to do. I got a whole hybrid work environment to go figure out, and like, how am I gonna make it secure, and people don't wanna be touching doors and all these things, and I have to put in technology to make this happen. WorkSpaces abstracts a lot of this complexity. Now you're only managing the users and the applications they have access to under the policies that you have set up. Now, if we take that agility one step further, as I mentioned, we have WorkSpaces Web. We launched this at reInvent in December. With WorkSpaces Web, the admin just says, here's the start URL to your session. Anytime the user goes and starts browsing, they're presented with a fresh version of Chrome. Admin didn't have to manage anything. They don't even have to manage fleets. It's readily available to them. But they still have the flexibility to set up any of 300 different browser policies, whether it's device policies, user policies, and really have control of where that data is. So like most desktop environments, you can control, can files be transferred? Am I gonna allow them to be printed? Can someone use the clipboard? All of that flexibility is there in a very easy to manage system. And because that secure browsing environment is all in the cloud, it tends to be more secure. There's no data coming on the laptop. And at the end of every session, the instance is terminated, so there's not even any data cached within the cloud. And many of our customers turn to us and we're like, yeah, we have all these people everywhere. They're starting to spend a lot of their day in web-based applications. I don't want to have to deal with spinning up a VPN. It's hard to scale. I have to constantly update the hardware. And one of the benefits of WorkSpaces Web is you don't need to use a VPN. Nothing's actually residing on the physical device. But of course, you want to make sure you have strong authentication and authorization. So WorkSpaces Web integrates with the top SAML 2.0 identity providers. So whether that's AWS SSO, Azure AD, Okta Ping, you can use those solutions with WorkSpaces Web and feel comfortable that you don't need a VPN to control access. Now, these solutions, WorkSpaces Web, WorkSpaces, and even part of AppStream, they've really brought benefit to enterprise and small, medium business customers. But we have a lot of ISVs that we work with as well. Some of them have software that people want to try before they buy. Or they're very extensive systems where you're going to have to train people how to use it. No one wakes up and understands how to use a 3D CAD system. So we have customers, SolidWorks in the CAD/CAM space, MatWorks, who people may know from MATLAB for science and engineering. They use AppStream to trial their product. No one has to download or install anything. Just go onto your laptop, whatever device that may be, and you can access that application that is streamed from the cloud. Another thing we've heard with ISVs is, I had my software all available through perpetual license, right? It's great. I understand my financial cash flows, but now my customers, the ISV's customers, are saying, I like this SaaS thing. I want to pay as you go. I want this on demand. And they're like, wow, I have to change my entire business model. I have to change my support model. And at the same time, I need to have the cloud expertise and the resources to rewrite my applications. This is a little bit too much all at once. So with AppStream, we allow, again, that application to be streamed from the cloud. It feels like SaaS. So these customers can focus on changing their business model instead of having to immediately change their software. And our customers, IHS Markit, which is now part of S&P Global, so in the financial industry, Multiview, that does accounting software, they both use AppStream to effectively deliver SaaS to their customers. Now, in some cases, your customer is somebody else's customer. You're a consultant. It's like a multi-tier. How do you help them on that cloud journey? Well, we have another ISV, or actually a consultant that we work with, Exida. And it's in the industrial consulting space. They do things like energy consulting, automotive consulting, and they build very specific software for their clients. So they used to have to go, fly out, be on site, and touch every single endpoint that ran their software to update it. It took weeks. And again, right, pandemic. No one wants to go out there. No one's like, oh my God, how am I gonna get them my new software? So again, AppStream enabled them to have a more cloud-based solution. They could update that application or each client's application in the cloud. And now within minutes, instead of weeks, all of those end users had an up-to-date application. So across these products, again, we really want to make it simple. And so we've built in a lot of services. We have instances that are pre-configured. So people like me, we spend a lot of our day in productivity apps, so we have standard instances for that. For those people using these high-end graphics applications, we have instances available for those situations, and we have everything in between. We also allow you to set up auto-scaling policies. So again, right, you want that flexibility to just use what you need. So with auto-scaling policies, you can scale up, scale down according to schedule or to utilization. We also want to make sure that the system's healthy and available. So we integrate with CloudWatch to check these very key metrics. And we also provide APIs. So everything that I mentioned available in the console, but if you have other software that you want to integrate with or you're a more advanced user, these systems have APIs for anything from image creation, image deletion, or as I mentioned, these third parties that you may want to set up with. And we do support a variety of third parties. We have blog posts on really how you integrate with all of these, from patch management on SCCM, through package management on Liquidware, to things like self-serve provisioning. We have a lot of customers integrating with their ServiceNow or other ticketing systems so that their end users can say, you know what, please send me a workspace. Get self-provisioned. And then, of course, a lot of our customers use Microsoft products, so they may want to set up group policy objects and apply those settings to manage users and workspaces in a Windows Workspaces directory. All this is pretty much out of the box. And we do it globally. So we hear from our customers, right? They're spinning up places all over the world. Your users are now all over the world. So we're constantly adding new regions. The most current is we added Toronto in AppStream just last month. And we always want to make sure that your systems are available. So we recommend setting up multiple availability zones within each region. And with Workspaces, we have cross-region redirect. So through your DNS router, you can set up failover policies. So if something happens, those users in your primary environment are now shifted over to your secondary environment, and they can keep being productive while you fix whatever needs to be fixed, and then they can be shifted back. And if you integrate with Route 53, that can be monitored for you, or you can use any other software that you want to help configure and actually detect a failover or a failure so that you can fail over. Well, you've heard quite a bit from me. I always think it's best to hear directly from a customer. So I'm going to turn it over to John Lembus, CIO at Maximus, who's in the health and human services area, to talk about how he used Workspaces.
All about connecting citizens either at the state level or at the national level with a variety of health and human services. Over the last 4 or 5 months, we've gone from having a fairly small number of people that work from home permanently to having over 25,000 people regularly using WorkSpaces. So one of the services that we provide for a lot of states is a variety of call center services, where we are connecting either constituents looking for healthcare services or they're looking for other citizen services. And those call centers, much like the customers that we serve, were closed because of COVID. And we were put in a position where we had to very quickly turn what were fixed call center facilities into completely virtual call center facilities, and do that within a couple of weeks. Of course, the first thing we had to do is make sure that we maintained the integrity of the information and the security of the information that we were handling on behalf of our customer. And that's where Amazon WorkSpaces came in. We were able to very quickly work with Amazon to take that session from our cloud-based telephony, embed it into an Amazon workspace, and extend it out to at least 24,000 employees. And our ability to very quickly stand up a large number of workspaces is really critical. Many of the contracts and the opportunities that we've received literally require us to be able to stand up 1,000 seats in the course of a week. What we've found with incorporating Amazon WorkSpaces into that model is it gives us quite a bit of flexibility to really look at teams by task and figure out which ones of them are frankly capable of working from home indefinitely. And that's a big plus, both from a cost savings perspective, but also from an employee engagement and employee satisfaction perspective. It gives a lot of flexibility to the work style of our individual employees. These new technologies, it takes us out of the role of spinning up hardware and takes us into a role of providing more structured services, more helpful services.
So you just heard John talk about how WorkSpaces helped him enable a virtual call center in a very, very quick amount of time and give him the flexibility he needed to provide critical services to local governments, like handling tons and tons of COVID questions coming in when people were so worried and didn't know anything about this virus. Now, I'm going to turn it over to Vishal, my colleague, who's going to talk a little bit more about how these end-user computing services enhance security.
Thank you. Thank you, Melissa. So security for us is job zero. But what does it mean for you? And what we've heard back from some of our customers. So as per this survey from IDC, they surveyed a number of customers, over 400 customers who procure their VDI solutions from different vendors, from different mechanisms like MSPs or value-added resellers, etc. And you can see security rated was #1 across the board. So what does increasing security mean for us? Your data should not leave the network. It is located centrally, and it should be where you can audit it, monitor it, and keep it secure. We have a number of security standards and compliance certifications. So as part of our shared security model, you should be able to see these, make sure your data is meeting those security compliance standards. And with the modern workforce, all over the globe, a lot of organizations are looking for zero trust, where your physical proximity to your campus, to your data centers, is not the only way to ensure. You have to treat your data located anywhere as being secure. So looking at that, how does a desktop as a service improve security? WorkSpaces enables customers to have tighter security policies and stronger security posture. You can deliver the same high-quality desktop experience your end users have come to expect. Now, your data is not sent anywhere. It stays within the AWS cloud or within your data center. The end users cannot download it to their devices. The WSP protocol or the PC over IP protocol, which are used to deliver this familiar desktop, is basically a stream of encrypted pixels. And that's the only thing coming down to the end user's display interface. And your data resides safely within the VPC. Now, WorkSpaces data, when it's stored on the device, on the I/O, to the block stores, et cetera, to the back-end storage systems, you want to ensure that that is being encrypted, and that is by default enabled within the infrastructure. So you're not having to specially provision anything extra for that. So you can use the KMS service, key management service, to encrypt it. Now, let's look at more detail at volume encryption. You can enable it whenever the workspace is created. You can use your own keys, or you can use AWS-provided keys. The next important thing is, how do you patch? How often do you patch? You can use your same on-prem device patching softwares in the cloud. There's no restriction. You can customize them, or you can use AWS-provided patch management solutions as well, which you can also customize. Quite often, our customers have an existing, antivirus, data loss prevention tools. You can continue to leverage those your IT teams are already familiar with them, how they operate, and you can extend their usability into AWS workspaces. Now, how do you secure, what is some of the major critical points where the attack surface happens is the gateways. Now, with workspaces being fully managed as a service, AWS is responsible for managing the gateways. These are the streaming and the authorization gateways. You can also create IP access control groups so that your workspaces can be accessed only from trusted networks. And the clients that are being used can be trusted by giving them valid certificates. Now, we do recommend customers enable two-factor authentication for additional security. You can also restrict where your workspaces is being deployed. You can control the internet inbound access to these workspaces. By default, they are, there's no the security groups do not have any inbound policies, and they're not internet facing. So let's look at some of the compliances that are provided to you. You've got the SOC compliances, SOC 1, 2, 3, some of the ISO. And this is not an exhaustive list. There's many more. And if you have a specific need for compliance, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to discuss your compliance needs. I have a chalk talk later today if you're interested in going over more deep dive into these security best practices. This was just scratching of a surface for today. The session is 3:15 to 4:15 p.m., room 301. Hope to see you folks there.
Thank you, Vishal. Now let's talk about that third key benefit of desktop as a service when it's enabling your hybrid and remote workers. So again, going back to that traditional VDI, you had to go ahead and actually buy those resources. They're there all the time. You had to rent your colo space or spin up that data center. It's a huge capital investment up front. And you're gonna have to forecast your peak capacity. Like for us, right, we have Amazon Prime Day. Talk about peak capacity. That's not every single day. For customers that have these kind of very big events, the idea of having to put up all of that infrastructure for something that may be a day or two here and a day or two there, it's very, very costly. And if we think about typically how a VDI environment is set up, you're going to put multiple users on a single VM. So let's say you impact 10 users on there. If only one user is left using that VM has to stay up and running. So now, instead of being really variable and be able to think about how you can scale up and scale out and scale down on demand, you've now put in this huge upfront investment. So we worked with Forrester at the end of 2021 to do a total economic impact study for virtual desktops. And we compared AppStream, our streaming applications service, with a traditional VDI, because those are set up somewhat similarly. And if you were to only refresh your hardware once, your software once, in a standard 3-year cycle, AppStream in comparison to the VDI environment would be about half the total cost of ownership. And let's say you wanted to stretch out your investment, right? Again, it was a large upfront capital expenditure. Even then, without any refreshes, AppStream came in at 24% less cost when you factor in all the aspects that go into the total cost of ownership: the hardware, the software, and the people that are needed to run it. So just like we have these various products for various workloads, we also have different pricing models for each product. So as I mentioned, right, knowledge worker all day and the laptop, at that point of when you get to about over 80 hours a month, it makes sense to provide that worker with a monthly workspace, flat fee per user per month. Now let's say you have other situations where you have a part-time workforce, or you have break fix, so they're not using it for the whole month. For that, we have hourly. When we think of AppStream, AppStream is more on a usage basis, right? How often are you using these particular applications? And this can vary from always on or more on demand, like those training classes, right? So it's gonna run, you're gonna run it for a day, a couple days, whatever that course takes, and then you're gonna shut it back down. So again, only pay for what you need. And most recently, which I'll talk about in a minute, we launched Elastic Fleets to get even more cost efficiency for our customers. And when it comes to the ultimate in simplicity, we have WorkSpaces Web. So not only did we want to make it simple to manage, we wanted the pricing model to be simple as well. So it's just a flat fee of $7 per user per month. So as I mentioned, Elastic Fleets. Elastic Fleets we launched at reInvent 2021 because we heard from our customers when they were thinking about changing their business model to SaaS. They're like, it's such a big deal. How do you expect me to forecast capacity? I don't know what auto-scaling policy to set up. What happens if the demand that I think is going to be there when I switch to SaaS doesn't materialize? I don't want to be paying for all that. So we looked at these needs of our customers and said, you know what? We can create something that has never been done before in VDI, which is a serverless fleet. And so how that works is take a portable application. It's installed in a virtual hard drive that then is put into your S3 bucket in your VPC. And then when a user actually accesses that application, that virtual hard drive is mounted, and you get access to that application from the cloud. So a little different than our standard AppStream where that instance is reserved in advance. Once that person's done with that application, the instance goes back into the pool. With this additional flexibility, we were able to cut costs for our customers. And now you don't even need to have a per hourly bill as a minimum. It is billed per every second with only a 15-minute minimum. So again, we heard you, and we wanted to make sure that we can make a really cost-effective solution for you. So if I go back to that original slide, some of the stuff that our Amazon IT teams have dealt with, as well as many, many customers we talk to, whether they're in financial industries, healthcare, like you heard from Maximus, a lot of people were dealing with the same challenges. So how we did this is we deployed WorkSpaces. At peak, we deployed 5,000 workspaces a week. And we did this in minutes, and we made it self-serve. And this allowed us to have time to get people their corporate managed device. We didn't have to worry about things stuck at the border. We could make sure that they were productive. And not only were they productive because the data and the applications resided in the cloud, we were able to provide a much more secure environment for accessing our corporate resources, no matter where those users were in the world. And this also allowed us to enhance our help desk services. It gave us the time that we needed to have more online chats and more other things so that when you don't have that IT person just down the corridor from you to offer help. I'm hoping these services that we talked about today can offer you some of the same benefits. But again, it's one thing to hear from Amazon IT. I always like to hear about our customers. So Sitel is a 160,000 person company that does outsourcing of call centers. They are all over the world. In that particular industry, there's a lot of attrition, there's a lot of turnover. And they needed to be able to allow people to work from home. So by using WorkSpaces, they reduced absenteeism by 32% and attrition by 27%. Hankook, CRM company out of Korea. Not only were they able to quickly spin up a virtual call center, they're like, wait a second, this is actually really cost effective. They were able to realize $6 million in real estate savings in a year. And now they're thinking, you know what, maybe I won't go back to that in-office experience. And then finally, Samsung Engineering. They have 2D, 3D applications that they make available to employees and partners around the world. By using AppStream and streaming those applications and the pixels from the cloud, they were able to realize a 30% cost savings. And again, what we think about is we think about the challenges that you face, the problems that you have. How can we make these products and these services so they can really meet your needs? And we thank our customers, some of you may be out there in the audience today, for really trusting us with your critical end user computing environments. And you may recognize some of the names up here. We do have tens of thousands of customers, and you can find more blog posts and other detailed case studies online. But we don't do it alone. We work with over 30 partners across the globe to help people migrate from on-premise to cloud, or to even start their journey with cloud desktops. We really trust in these partners, and again, hopefully you see partners that you already work with on this slide. If not, all of these ones up here have been certified to help you. And if you like what you heard today, and you really want to understand more about WorkSpaces and AppStream, we offer free courses. In fact, there's over 500 courses to get you up to speed on anything you want to know about running in the cloud. And you may even want to go a step further. You may be thinking, oh, I've just started dabbling in the cloud. Maybe this is my career. We offer 11 different certifications. And that will really help kind of boost you and take your skills to the next level. If you're interested in either of these, please take a picture of the QR code and you can find out more information, or obviously you can go to our website. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for spending time with me and Vishal and hearing about how we can use these end user computing services to enable remote and hybrid work. Now, of course, there is a survey, so we'd love for you to take the survey. And at this point, I'll pause and see if there's any questions that we can take. We're also going to stay for a little bit afterwards if you prefer to ask us any questions one-on-one. And I'm sorry, the lights are super bright. I think there is an arm up here. Sorry, it's very bright up here.
What's the solution for the backup? How do you back up this workspace?
So with WorkSpaces, we do a snapshot every 12 hours. so that if something happens, you can go back and revert to 12 hours or 12 hours before that. We also believe that more and more applications are going to be in the cloud. So with those particular applications, that's redundant by their own systems. And then obviously we want to make sure that the backup of the cloud resources. So we always say you should be backing up your resources that are in the cloud. And we do have backup solutions, or there's other solutions to be able to back up those cloud resources.
There's another question.
Is there an option to migrate these workspaces from one AWS account to another AWS account?
Michelle, why don't you take that question?
Directly out of the box, it doesn't exist as, if you're looking like a quick solution. There are migration strategies that we can look at and come up with a more detailed answer. I'd have to look at your account architecture because you may not belong under the same organization. There's many other factors to consider. So we'd be happy to, take that into a deep dive and have like a follow-up session with you on that.
Yeah, I hope we can connect after this then.
Of course.
Thank you. Any other questions we could entertain while we're on stage? And again, we will be here after to see if anyone wants to.
I have a question about near zero latency uses for gaming. Is the web user using HTML5, and can we use that to play video games or for the VDI side?
So I will talk a little bit about video gaming. We do have our DCV protocol being used even by, I think there was a recent article with Epic. Some people know Epic Games. We have actually used these protocols with Amazon's own game streaming platform. So yes, you can use it. And they have really been optimized for that particular use case. The HTML5 part, I don't know, Michelle, if you want to address that particular piece of the gaming equation.
Actually, we'd like to discuss your use case more in detail because when you say HTML5, with which specific component you're referring to? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we'd be happy to deep dive into this use case because if it can get into a lot of detail, I don't want to share information that we may not be with this thing.
Actually, I'm from Epic Games.
Oh, okay, awesome. Awesome. People love that game. I'm just saying. I know people who've spent lots of their life in that game. Cool. Okay, any other questions? Again, we'll hang out till to around 1 o'clock, the next 15 minutes or so, and see if there's any other questions. Otherwise, thank you so much for coming and spending your lunch break with me today, and have a great lunch. Thank you.